Respected dignitaries and my dear friends, a warm welcome to the session, and I consider it as my proud privilege to present a topic on liberty and gender. And my specific topic is, does the law help or hinder liberty? Analysis of rights of women under labor laws. Quoting the words of Frances Wright, no doubt equality is the soul of liberty, and there is in fact no liberty without it. This means that law can restrict the liberty of an individual to the state for the benefit of the society. But my specific question is, does this mean that only women gender have to surrender some liberty? And before analyzing this, we need to understand what are our Sustainable Development Goal and the Millennium Development Goal to be achieved by 2030. With reference to the labor laws, we have certain specific sustainable development goals such as gender equality, which can be attained by recognizing and valuing unpaid care and domestic work of women, decent work and economic growth, that is full and productive employment and decent work for all men and women, and equal pay for work of equal value by 2030. Reduce inequality by ensuring equal opportunity and by reducing inequalities of income. And the MDG target, that is the Millennium Development Goal, is that we have to eliminate the discriminatory laws, policies and practices and promote appropriate legislation, policies and action in this regard to promote gender equality and empowerment. So we are going to analyze, does the law help or hinder liberty of a woman with respect to the rights of women ensured under the existing legal framework? So what we want to analyze is that whether the existing legal framework are sufficient to give protection to the working woman, at the same time whether we can achieve the SDG and MDG targets by 2030 with the existing legal framework. So when we start analyzing, no doubt we have to start from the grand norm provision, and it is very clear from the Constitution that liberty have been protected in all the provisions, including the fundamental rights, directive principles of state policy, fundamental duties, etc. But the problem is that Constitution can be used only when there is an abuse by the state. So what about the other abuses? In order to answer that question, we have got the working woman and statutory safeguards. There are many statutory safeguards which says that the working woman's right gets protected. Say for example, it has been made under different heads: wages, social security, welfare, working conditions and industrial relations. Coming to the topic wages, we have ample number of laws like Payment of Wages Act, Minimum Wages Act, Equal Remuneration Act, Payment of Bonus Act, etc. etc. And in order to provide social security, we have another set of legislation, and more emphasis should be given in this area with respect to the social security given to the unorganized sectors of workers. Then for welfare, we have another set of laws, and for working conditions and industrial relations, we have ample number of laws like Industrial Disputes Act, Trade Unions Act, Factories Act, ESI Act, etc. Moreover, in order to give special protection to women under the labor laws, we have enacted three other important acts like the Equal Remuneration Act, Maternity Benefit Act, and the Protection of Women from Sexual Harassment Act. And it is very much pleasing to see that we have made all these acts in consensus with the International Labour Organization goals, and we have got the power to make this as per Article 15, and also the Second Labour Commission 2002 justifies that protective discrimination laws for women can be made in all sectors, and that is how we have enacted under our labour laws also. The question is that though we have this plethora of legislation, are we able to achieve the equality concerns which will deal with the liberty provision? Just see the labor standard legislation and equality concerns. Even today, the equality concerns in the specific areas have not been achieved by the above said labor standard legislation. First one is minimum wages. Though our directive principle of state policy state that it is not the minimum wage, but it is a living wage that you have to provide. But we can see that it is safely placed under directive principle of state policy, so that it cannot be enforced. Now coming to the specific legislation, minimum wages. We can see that women workers are not unionized and they are not given the minimum workers even today. Then equal pay. We know that we have got an Equal Remuneration Act, and under Equal Remuneration Act it is specified that equal pay for equal work. But the problem is that the employers don't provide equal work for our women workers. So what can be done? They are considered only as additional or supplementary laborers. So equal pay is not attained, which is a very specific mandate as far as labor law is concerned for achieving equality. And in the name of protection, legislations in the name of protection are banning the women workers from specific areas. Say for example, it is said that under the Mines Act, the women are not supposed to work in the subterranean work and night shift not at all provided for women. And how can we attain this equality concerns in the name of protective legislation? This has totally backfired the empowerment of women. Now coming to non-discrimination. We think that non-discrimination is necessary, but always discrimination in the name of sex is undergoing under the labor laws. Now, from this it is very clear that there are certain common forms of gender discrimination which still persist even after the enactment of protective legislation and working women safeguards. Let us examine one by one. First one, it is that the definition of work itself is gendered. So that is a gender discrimination. So next is accounting for household work. There is no account for the household work done by women. Then always there is discrimination at the workplace. And the nature of work. Women can't decide the nature of work. They are considered as additional or supplementary workers. So the nature of work will be decided by the employer. Then access to facilities. Many facilities are not able to be accessed by the women workers, though it has been mentioned in the specific legislation. We can see that occupational health and safety, in the name of occupational health and safety, they are being prevented from doing certain works so that they needn't pay equal pay. Then coming to sexual harassment, no doubt, even though we have a very good legislation, no implementation mechanism and the enforcement mechanism is very weak and poor. And we know that though we have strong trade unions, there is no representation or poor representation of women workers who can tackle their problems. And another hurdle is that number threshold for providing facility. And we can see that under the Factories Act, it is specified that 20 or more workers should be there, then only we will provide facility under this act. And coming to the Maternity Benefit Act, it is said that if there are 10 or more workers, maternity relief will be provided. So this number threshold is becoming a very important hurdle that needs to be overcome. Now, let us examine whether judiciary could respond to this issue. That is, judiciary have always tried their hard to attain the equality so that the liberty will be achieved. And when analyzing all the decisions like Oliga Tellers versus Bombay Municipal Corporation, Radha Charan Patnaik case, C.B. Muthama case, Air India versus Nargish Mishra, Omana Women versus FACT, Vishakha versus State of Rajasthan, Dina versus Union of India, and Apparel Export Promotion Council versus A.P. Chopra. It is very clear that judiciary has strived a lot for giving protection, for giving equality, at the same time for assuring liberty to working women. But the question is, can judiciary alone achieve this? It's not possible for the judiciary alone to achieve this goal. So then what can be done? We need certain law and policy reforms that should come from the grassroots level. So what are the solutions that we can do for overcoming the present issues, overcoming the present challenges? First one is redefining the word work from the gender definition of work is very much essential. Accounting for household work and its vital contribution to labor work, measures should be taken to eradicate different wages for same work. Notion that women workers can be regarded only as additional or supplementary workers should be changed. Then, the classification of certain occupations performed by women as unskilled under minimum wages act need to be amended. Women in the unorganized sectors are often not covered under labor law since they require minimum workers. The concept of number threshold for providing facility should be changed. Most of the provision, as I quoted earlier, under Factories Act and Plantations Labour Act, required to be provided only when there are 20 or women workers. Likewise, maternity benefit is available only when there are 10 or more workers. This number threshold should be taken away. Sexual harassment at workplace should be prevented, which is highly necessary to improve the social life. Presence of adequate women inspectors in the labour administration for implementation of labour statute is highly recommended for ensuring women empowerment. So these are certain solutions which I suggest, so that from the grassroots level we have to change so that this equality and liberty can be achieved. Now concluding, I would like to state that there are adequate legislation in India which not only removes the discrimination against women but also empowers the women. The grand norm, that is the constitution itself, makes room for discriminatory laws in favor of the women who are considered the weaker sex, disadvantaged and discriminated in the male-dominated society. The existence of these laws, which remain only in the books, is the major problem that is faced in India. And the Supreme Court, however, has taken initiatives too, and in some cases issued even directions to the government as well. But the implementation of these legislation in actual constructive sense is very much necessary to remove the evil. I would like to conclude by quoting the words of Kofi Annan, who once said that there is no tool for development more effective than the empowerment of women. So at this juncture, let us put our hands together to achieve this main goal that we need to achieve, which is a mandate by 2030. Thank you very much. I once again thank and extend my deep gratitude to all the coordinators of this program, especially Anil sir for conducting such a wonderful and amazing session. Thank you once again.